It's no secret that Necromancer is probably the most overpowered class in Diablo 4. And while I see a lot of people playing with a huge army of the dead, I think it's even more satisfying to literally one-shot elites from afar, snipe them down with bone spears with very satisfying crit damage. So in this video I'm gonna share my build, which I enjoy so much during the beta. Very easy to set up and it's just super fun. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Alright, so first off, it is very important to know that this build will work just fine with or without a skeletal army. Recommend you to summon them in early game, while the more skill points you get, I do recommend you to sacrifice some of them or even all, which I did to make this build even more powerful. Without the skirmishers, you can increase your critical strike chance by 5%. While with the mages, if you sacrifice those, you will also deal 15% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. And in this build, we're going to focus on constantly applying vulnerability to them, increasing the damage furthermore. While without a golem, you also get 10% increased attack speed. So you basically save 3 slots, get some pretty nice skills in return, which we're going to check out right now. And this will only further increase the power of this build. So for the basic attack, we go with Bone Splinters. Deal damage to multiple enemies in front of you, while if you upgrade that, you will also have a 30% chance to fire additional projectiles if you have 50 or more essence. This one is essential to move on to the final tier. To hit the same enemy at least 3 times, you will also get increased critical strike chance for 4 seconds. So more crits, higher damage, and we're also going to apply vulnerability with the Bone Spear, which is basically our core ability and literally hits like a truck. If you upgrade it, it can also break into different shards when returning to deal even more damage. So pretty nice for AoE, while the Bone Spear can also make your first enemy hit vulnerable, which we can further expand with a couple of legendary bonuses to basically apply the vulnerability effect to many more enemies. Then, for our Corpse and Macabre skills. Blood Mist. This one is pretty essential to escape from pretty sticky situations, but also to clear big packs of mobs. I mean, if you trigger this one at the right time with the right legendary bonuses, you can literally blow up the entire battlefield, which is very satisfying, deals so much damage, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in this video, but it makes you immune and you don't really need to upgrade this any further. You also want to take Bone Prison to cage enemies, block the AI pathing, so it's going to be more difficult and even impossible for them to reach you. And yeah, then you will basically apply some more modifiers to deal more damage, but also gain some essence in return for every single enemy trapped. So you can basically keep spamming your core spear ability. And on the final tier, you will also apply vulnerability to all the enemies inside. So make him deal more damage and yeah, impossible for them to reach you. On the curse skill tab, we're gonna take Decrepify to make juking enemies a lot easier, as the slow is 40%, also for a pretty long time, while this will also allow us to deal more damage to them, and they will deal less to us. If we take Amplify damage, you will deal plus 9% increased damage to all those cursed enemies, which doesn't cost a lot of essence, so you can basically keep applying this to all your enemies to keep them at bay and simply hit them so much harder. Then we also have the Dead's Reach. You will deal 12% increased damage to distant enemies. Distant enemies are basically enemies which cannot hit you with melee attacks. So they don't really have to be far away from you, just a little bit out of reach. On the Corpse and Macabre skill tab, you only want to spend 1 point in Serration. It's a pretty nice one, while we're not gonna have a lot of essence for spare, let's say. We'll give you some extra critical strike chance for each extra you have upon cast, but we basically want to move on to the next two, which are very powerful. Compound Fracture. After critically striking 10 times with bone skills, which we're basically going to do all the time, your bone skills will deal 15% increased damage for 5 seconds. And with Avulsion, we will also deal increased critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies, which basically happens all the time, as with the Bone Spear, we will make our enemies vulnerable with this final tier. Then, last but not least, we also have an ultimate ability right here, Bone Storm, to have a swirling storm with a lot of AoE damage around you for about 10 seconds. This one is pretty optional. It's just because we got rid of our skeletons to have more attack speed, more damage against vulnerable enemies. But I think this one is pretty satisfying to clean up bigger rooms, in combination, of course, with our Blood Mist, which we're gonna check out in a second. Now, onto some gameplay. When you encounter trash mobs, I recommend you to just use your Bone Splinters and Bone Spear. Already takes them out in no time, as we're gonna have insane crit and vulnerability damage. But if you encounter elites, you want to make sure to first bone prison them. Gonna be very nice to very quickly gain some extra essence, as this is basically what it does. They are gonna place your Decrepify to make them deal less damage, while you're gonna deal more damage against all those cursed targets. And then you can spam your Bone Spear to hit like a truck, deal with them in no time. If you already cleared a nice amount of trash mobs, you can cast your Blood Mist to detonate all the corpses in the room to make short work of bigger mobs as well. While if you want to deal even more AoE damage, every minute you can also cast the Bone Storm. So yeah, a very satisfying build for which you don't need any skeletons to aid you in combat, as you will already take care of every situation yourself with ease. I mean, you're never in trouble as long as you have your Blood Mist on cooldown, while with a Bone Prison you can zone out bigger packs of mobs as well as elites very easily. And if you have a couple legendaries with nice bonuses, well, this build is going to become so much more powerful. So let's check them out. First off, I think this one is really nice. Attacking enemies with basic attacks increase the damage of your next core skill cost up to 50%. You're basically doing this to gain essence, spamming the Bone Splinters to get your Bone Spear ready. Will deal so much more damage when you can do that. This one is also very powerful in combination with that, as critical strikes with your core skills will increase your attack speed. So you can quicker cast the Bone Splinters to gain new essence, use the Bone Spear faster once again, so they basically contribute very well to your basic and core skills. Well, with this imprint, Bone Spear's primary attack will also make enemies beyond the first hit vulnerable for an X amount of seconds. Bone shards from the Bone Spear will also deal 85% bonus damage to vulnerable enemies and also pierce them. So yes, vulnerability, more damage, very satisfying. While last but not least, we also have the Blood Mist. Triggers corpse explosions on surrounding corpses. So when you use this one to detonate a corpse, it will also reduce the cooldown by 1.3 seconds. The more AoE damage you deal, the more the cooldown gets reduced. So yeah, a very satisfying build, heavily focuses on Bone Spear, Bone Splinter damage, crit all the time with his vulnerability applications. And yeah, I don't really think it's necessary to focus on an army of the dead. It can be fun to have all those guys in the front line, while I like to be the only guy in the area, just taking care of any situation. Ladies and gentlemen, a big thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like if you found this video helpful. And of course, I've got plenty more builds on the channel, as well as in the description for all classes already. So be sure to check them out. Any questions, suggestions, be sure to leave them in the comments as well. Well, right now, I want to wish you an awesome day. See you in the next video. Take care. Peace.